So this is about working groups that are setting up at ESO to prepare observations, and in particular, so one which is called EO Performance and PSF Simulations. So I'm presenting for a group. It's obviously a large group, so all of the people that signed up are listed here. Some of them are in the room. They are sorted by how much work they have to do. So this is why I put Guido at first. He asked me if this was the reason, and I won't do anything. But so those groups are coordinated by Michele at ESO and Remco. And well, the context is that we're going to have only one ELT, unfortunately. At least for Europe, we're going to have only one. So each photon counts. And this is more about how to optimize the telescope, but more on before observing, so how to optimize the preparations of the observations and the operation, and how to make the best use of this big machine. So what has been prepared by Michele, it's actually on again, preparing observations. So the idea is to start from being able to get the star catalogs, because we're going to use very faint stars and maybe fainter stars that are not already available in catalogs. So there's going to be a group that will be working on preparing those star catalogs. Then we'll be working on trying to estimate the performance that we're going to get with the EO systems. And then will come the instrument simulator and exposure time calculator. The idea is to have a whole chain, so starting from the stars, you go to your favorite targets, and you say, okay, so this is, I want to observe this target. From this, then the EO guys will say, okay, so the best for you will be to pick this star, this star, this star. And the sort of PSF, the performance you will get will be more or less this one, so that this can be plugged into the instruments, and then the instruments will say, okay, so the data cube or the image that you get at the end is going to be this. And if you need such signal-to-noise ratio, actually, so you need to integrate twice longer. So at the end, the idea is to try to do like a super exposure time calculator to really optimize at best the use of the telescope. And those working groups involve scientists from all the ELT instruments. So there are groups which are spread over all the instruments. It's not instrument by instrument, but the idea is to try to work all together on preparing that. So the one that I'm going to describe this morning is this one, EO Performance and PSFs. So this is basically what we have to do, but in terms of deliverables, if we just look at that, so basically we have to provide an algorithm that will decide which star you have to pick. So you go to your favorite target, and then, as I said before, we should provide an algorithm that should tell you, so the best natural gas star that you have to use are these ones, and try to generate the expected PSF, so not to 1% level, but maybe to 10% level, and this is going to be used then in the ETCs. And obviously, so to put that together, we need to define a simulation strategy. So there are, well, in terms of simulation, either we go like a full end-to-end, so there are pros and cons. Either we go with some simplified analytical methods. So I'm not going to detail too much of that. Obviously, end-to-end, it's going to be very accurate. You can look at very small effects. However, it may be long. And here, so we are talking about some tools that may be used by the user. So the astronomers, they don't want to wait for 24 hours before knowing which star they have to use. So maybe analytical will be more appropriate for that. They're obviously fast. However, there are some assumptions made so that they are fast. They won't model everything, but maybe they are more adapted for it. And obviously, we can think on hybrid methods. So this may be working for SCO, but most likely for MCO-LT or more complex tomographic system we'll have to use for analytical. So if we decide arbitrarily that we'll use analytical tools, then basically the thing is quite easy. So on one hand, you have like a high order part of the PSF, which is set by the tomography and the laser part, and this is mostly constant actually. This only depends on the laser gas star geometry, which is going to be fixed, the laser gas star flux, which is mostly going to be a lot, and okay, the CN square profile obviously, but mostly this is going to be okay, quite stable. On the other hand, we have the NGS part of the PSF, and this one will be changing. This one will have most of the variations depending on the brightness of the star, the position of the star, and at the end, so the idea is to convolve both to get the final PSF. Yeah, so to a first order, this is mostly constant. To a first order, this is mostly variable. And then if we just focus on this part of the PSF, the low order one, so So again, the idea is that you go on whatever target, and then you try to find what's the best asterism that you have to use in this target, and how to get at least the low order part of the PSF, so the jitter. Yeah, so this depends on many parameters. That may depend on the brightness of the star, CN square, and many things. So again, the idea is to try to have something fast, maybe not the best accurate, but at least representative of the expected performance. So we're going to simplify that and attack this problem in a sort of error budget fashion with 3 terms like tomography, temporal error, and noise propagation. So tomography will only depend on the number, position of stars, and atmospheric properties. Temporal errors, they will only depend on the brightness of the star, and noise will depend on the distance of the star. So how well you've been able to compensate the star, or how well it's spread, and wavefront sensor choice. But this we assume that the instruments, they have done their choice already. So the idea of this tool is not to help the instrument to design their system, but to help the users to use the instrument. So as an input, we get what the instruments are made for. So just to say that some time ago, in 2000, 2001, there's been some work that has been done already by François Rigaud, Brent. I have some small movies to show. So this has been done for the Gemini MCO system. So basically what they've been doing was to compute the noise propagation you may expect in MCO for those plate scale modes. So in MCO you have multiple laser guide star, and then you need multiple natural guide star to control tip tilt. That you have somewhere here, but on top of tip tilt you need to control as well the plate scale, because you have some deformable mirror in altitude, so you will be able to control the plate scale, so that may be focus or sort of astigmatism. So they've been developing some analytical ways to compute very quickly the expected performance depending on the NGS. So this is a good input that we can use. Actually, let's go to the next slide. This has been implemented in a numerical tool that has been developed by Damien Gratadour called Mascot. So basically, you go on whatever target, Antenna Galaxy. It will query the catalogs, pick the star, and automatically try to compute the expected degradation of performance. It works for 3 stars, it works for 2 stars, it works for 1 star. And this has been implemented in the observing tool at Gemini. So this is what people are using at Gemini for preparing observations for when they use the MCO system with the laser, obviously. So basically, you go on this target, and the tool will automatically say, okay, so if you want to observe here, the best 3 stars you have to pick are this one, and this one. Actually, tomorrow I will describe a new natural guide star wavefront sensor, which for GEMS, which is now implemented. But this tool then will tell you, okay, so the best constellation you have to use is this one, taking into account as well the offsets, because if you want to offset your field, those stars may go outside of the field, so the search radius is obviously reduced. And yeah, it will just tell you, so if I will be you, I will use those stars. Obviously, you can override that if you think that you have a better idea of what should be done. And at Gemini, what we've been doing, it's stuck here. Around my computer, it moved. Waiting for connection. Yeah, so at Gemini, what we've been doing was also to test on Sky the way the performance was evolving across the field. So this is an example on a field where we were only having just 1 star. So because of the limiting brightness of the star in this field, this was a galactic field, extragalactic field. Sorry. So there've been only 1 star, and basically the predictions from the analytical tools have been compared with some real on Sky observation on Sky. And well, the performance agreement was not too bad. So it seems that it's a good way of doing it. So basically, what we have to do, it's now just to revisit those methods. Just to say that there are some tools. So then I have a little bit of details on these terms, even though we can go through all of them. So for the tomography, as I said, it just depends on the constellation and the more star you have. So this will be the residual jitter versus the distance of your star. If you have 1, 2 in a L shape, 2 well on each side of your target or 3 stars. So basically the jitter increases depending on the field. And this is quite well known, and we have like analytical formula from that. There's a lot of paper that describes how we can do that. This obviously depends on the outer scale. This is for 25 meter, you see it reaches like a 3 mass on the top. For 50 meter, it will go by a factor 2. So the outer scale of the turbulence will be a very important parameter as an input that we'll need for our simulation. Even though I don't know if it's possible to predict what will be the outer scale, or if we will be able to have a good measurement of the outer scale during the night. But it's definitely a fundamental parameter. Then we have the temporal error. So this depends on M4, M5. So depending on the way we are controlling them, you can have different sort of rejection transfer function, and then depending as well on the wind shake, which is due. So this is almost directly proportional to the wind speed. So if we have a good idea of what will be the wind speed during the night, we should be able to have a good idea of what how the telescope will be shaking. The turbulence as well, we have some models, even though the main contributor here it's the wind shake. So the turbulence in terms of jitter is very small compared to the wind shake. So then if you multiply the transfer function, the rejection transfer function with what you get in input, you get the residual for the wind shake and for the turbulence. And then you can also play with some game saying that, so this will be the jitter you get depending on the wavefront sensor sampling. So if you go very fast, obviously you have less residual jitter. If you go very slowly, then you get a lot of jitter. However, this has to be optimized depending on the magnitude of the targets that you're observing, obviously. And here there's some optimization that must be done. For the noise term, so again, we have some very nice analytical formula developed by Gérard or Magali Nicole again some time ago that will describe photon noise and readout noise. Okay, I won't go in all the details here, but what's important is that so those formula, we know very well how they are working either in seeing limited regime or in diffraction limited regime. However, in between, where we will be partially corrected, those formula may not be fully valid. So a work that has been done by Thierry, actually, a few years ago, was to develop a lot of simulations with many colors, but end-to-end simulation, actually, to reproduce different sort of, for instance, in that case, Shah-Kartman, depending, for instance, on the pupil. So looking at how the noise will be actually propagated from the end-to-end simulation and try to infer some analytical formula from that. So depending on the number of subaperture or shape of the pupil, you can do all sorts of simulation. He's been doing that as well with different sort of atmospheric residuals. So in that case, for instance, you have your star is very well compensated. You have a very nice diffraction limited spot. And for instance, if you go towards seeing limited regime, then you will have some halo. So the noise propagation at the end will look like something like this. So you have the good diffraction limited regime, the seeing limited regime, and actually in between. So what Thierry has been doing was to propose this analytical formula that should be able to tell, depending on the fluid self-max, for instance, or the Strehl that you get on your star, how much noise you will be propagating. So basically, all of that just to say that we should be able to have all of the bricks that we need to describe analytically the tomography, the temporal error, and the noise. And then what we can do basically is to try to go on whatever field and test. So say what will be the jitter on axis if I'm considering LTO in that case, if I will use this star. And then I know that I will get so much photons. I will need some inputs on the atmospheric turbulence. And then I should be able to predict what should be the jitter on axis. So what the astronomers will want will be that we do that on some cosmological fields, obviously, or whatever fields they would like to observe. So we have done that in collaboration with Maori and Harmony. So we've been testing some of the real fields. So this one, for instance, is a goods field. So it's one of the most observed cosmological fields. And here, so that will be for Harmony, for LTO in that case. So in LTO, we use just one natural gas star. And this is the expected jitter on the field, depending on the star position. So basically, blue is good because you have a low jitter, and pink is bad because you have a high jitter, or it may be infinite, actually, because there's no star close enough. And basically, like this, you can predict what the sort of jitter you will get on the field with this system in particular. And this we can do the same as well with Maori and with the 3 natural gas stars. And again, so this depends quite a lot on the CN² profile. So this is for the 35 layer profile that has been provided by ESO. This is with another profile that's been used by ESO previously. So just depending on the CN², you see that you may gain a lot of sky coverage and a lot of performance. So CN² will definitely be a very important input, and maybe having way of doing forecast of CN² may be important, because like this we may be able to predict what will be the performance during the night. And again, the outer scale of performance is very important. So going from 25 or 50 meters to 25 meters, then you make a big difference in terms of performance. All right, so again, so the conclusions of these groups are to try to define those algorithms and being able to give to the user a way to predict as best as possible what performance they will get for the ELT. The work has just started, actually, so if you have inputs or if you have a recommendation, they will be very welcome. If you want to participate to the group as well, we'll be happy to include you. And I hope it will be useful at the end for the user. So that's it. Thank you.